What's up, everybody? Welcome to Planet Pepe, me and Stormcloud hanging out. This is probably going to be a bit of a long video, so buckle up, no pun intended, because Paul McCartney did die apparently in a car crash in 1966. At least that's the rumor. And then the Beatles found they found a lookalike, like some orphan from Ireland, and they taught him how to play, and then they dubbed his voice or something, and they did all these things. And Paul McCartney was the only left-handed member of the group, so they had to find a left-handed player. Is it true? Did Paul McCartney really die and the Beatles covered it up and left clues to tell the fans? In my opinion, no. But it's a little more interesting than that. I think it's a little more just different than just yes and no. This is obviously part of my urban legend music saga. Apparently he got into a huge fight with the band. He drove off and got decapitated in a car crash. I think what happened, before I get into like the kind of the meat of this, I think ultimately what happened was I'm sure they got into an argument. He sped off. Maybe he got into a car crash. Maybe he got dinged up a bit. Maybe he got into a fender bender. Who knows? And then someone picked it up, and then it snowballed. It's kind of like you play a game of telephone. One thing turns into another, and next thing you know, Paul McCartney's dead. And they found a lookalike, even though it was just like, no, I just kind of got into a little bit of a dinger of a car crash when I got into a fight with my band. But so, all right, so I think what happened was that this snowballed, and then the Beatles heard about it, and instead of disputing it, they're like, let's have some fun here. Let's almost like leave some clues that Paul is dead. And there are some legitimate clues that the Beatles left behind that I think that they're messing with the public, that are like, I think on certain albums, like I think on Abbey Road, they're all walking down Abbey Road. Paul McCartney's the only one without shoes on, signifying death. I think on Magical Mystery Tour, he's the one in black, kind of in a my walls here, in like a crucifix kind of stand, signifying that there's a lot of things. I Buried Paul is at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. I even remember my brother, because we grew up being big Beatles fans. My brother had this black and white poster of the Beatles, and they were all looking ahead. I remember Paul was the only one ducking. And I remember even being young, before I knew the rumor, just being like, why is Paul McCartney ducking? Like, why is he the one kind of doing this? I think that there are legitimate clues that the Beatles left to mess with the public. But at the same time, I also think that the public is reaching for certain evidence, that it's just kind of like, well, if you play this song backwards, it sounds like this. Or if you hold a mirror up to this, and it's just like, stop. At that point, you're just reaching. The Beatles aren't doing that. You're just looking for clues that aren't there. But I do think that the Beatles legitimately left behind certain things. Now, in terms of what's legitimate about it, what could make this true? There are some interesting things about it. They did stop touring, I think, right after Paul's apparent death in '66, which is interesting because it's just like, well, we got to teach this new guy how to play, how to sing, do all this stuff. So it's interesting how they just randomly stopped touring after this rumor started. Also, too, I think the rumor died down, and it apparently went throughout college campuses. This was like big throughout college campuses, because the Beatles were in their late 20s, and all these like 18, 19, 20-year-olds were like, oh, Paul's dead. You gotta listen to all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I think the Beatles ran with that a bit, but there is some legitimate things out there. Again, do I think Paul's dead? No, because what does this look like? Just start the band Wings too, and like like at a certain point, it's just like you can't just steal someone's identity. So no, I don't think it was true. But there were some interesting. Again, there were some very odd things that took place. Again, I'm a bit scattered, but I don't know too much about this. But the Beatles did leave behind some messages that seemed cryptic, in a way that seemed like maybe they really are trying to tell us something. Like maybe it's possible that maybe Paul McCartney left the band for a year and they had to find a replacement, and this like Paul was still alive, but they had to find a replacement because Paul quit the band, and they didn't want to acknowledge to the public that Paul McCartney had left the band. There's a lot of different things that could have spawned this, but it's still an interesting rumor today. I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of things, but there's in their, I forget what record it was, but it was a record where it's them and then like 1,000 people in the background, and there's a bunch of things there. Even people point to like Illuminati stuff. I'm not going to go into that because that's kind of, I'm not 20 years old anymore. I don't care about that. But there are some things in there where I think like someone held up a hand, like right behind Paul's head. There are some things that it's just kind of like, those are interesting choices that the Beatles made, that like, it is kind of like, maybe they are trying to tell you something. Maybe it's not that Paul McCartney died, but maybe they're trying to tell you something about Paul. Even Penny, I think I mentioned this before, but Penny Lane, like if you put pennies in your eyes, I think in England back then, that was like a burial tradition. Like you put pennies in the closed eyes and things like that, to signify death and a funeral and sorrow. So is Paul McCartney dead? I don't think so. Some people might, but man, it's an interesting thing. Like, why did that rumor start? Like, how did that rumor start? Why didn't the Beatles just flat out be like, no, he's still alive? Why did they refuse to talk about it? Why did they kind of leave why did all of a sudden, once this rumor started, did they leave some things around, some things that, kind of, maybe they were trying to tell us something. I don't think it was that Paul McCartney's dead. Maybe they were running with that, I don't want to say gag, but that trope a little bit. But maybe there was someone with Paul McCartney, that is kind of like, who knows? All right, Planet Pepe, everyone. Again, this is part 2 of my, no pun intended, piece, but this is part 2 of my my music urban legend thing. So look it up for yourself. I'm sure there's things I'm missing. I'm sure there's like hour-long documentaries on it, things like that. But I'm just an amateur YouTuber, so I'm just a fan. So all right, peace out, everyone. Planet Pepe, bye.